proposta da terapia centrada no cliente considera que uma pessoa que se sente vulnerável ou ansiosa deve buscar um terapeuta que tenha congruência, aceitação incondicional e empatia. Só assim o cliente encontrará o clima necessário para crescer psicologicamente. Vejamos como Rogers define essas 3 condições. Congruência é a primeira condição necessária para o terapeuta. A congruência existe quando ele é um indivíduo autêntico, quando está em contato com seu eu real e tem a disposição de expressar abertamente seus sentimentos e pensamentos sem usar máscaras diante do cliente. Veja o que diz Rogers.
I think the very first element in that is that I find that when I'm of the most help, those are the times when I am genuine, when I'm real. One word that I like to describe it is when I'm transparent, when it seems as though there is nothing hidden from this person that I'm working with. Now what I mean by that is that whatever I'm experiencing is really known to me. It's open to me. I know what I'm feeling. And I would like for any feelings of mine that are really relevant to this relationship to be transparent in the relationship and to be known to the person I'm working with. What are some of the feelings that I'm likely to have? Well, as I work with individuals, gradually I come to care. I really come to care in regard to this person. And I'd like for that to show. Another feeling that certainly is very often real in me is one of compassion, because sometimes individuals have had lives of terrible loneliness and real torment, and I do feel compassion toward them. And I'd like that to show. And then one thing that is almost certain to be present in me is interest. People are fascinating. And I am interested in them as individuals, and I'd like that to show. And then I feel a desire to really understand them in a way that seems to catch their point of view, and I'd like that to show. But then, suppose I have other feelings. Suppose I feel somewhat bored with this individual. Well, I'm not proud of it, but I'd like that to show too. Or suppose I feel resentment. I don't very often resent my clients, but if I do, or when I do, I would want that to be evident to the person too. The point is that I don't believe a therapist can be helpful to another person unless he can really be himself. And being himself means letting any of his real feelings be present in the relationship. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm going to talk a lot about these feelings that I've mentioned. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty quiet in an interview. I don't really say a great deal. But I would like it for my feelings to really be visible and evident to this other individual. I want to be real and open within myself so that I communicate just one message. Now that may sound a little strange, but often we communicate more than one message, and that's very confusing. Suppose I resent the fact that a client of mine is taking too much time, but I cover it up. Well, then he hears one message, but he's actually receiving another message too, because he may sense my resentment. I think we sense lots of things that we don't really understand easily. Or suppose I really care about this person, but I cover that up by trying to take a strictly professional, cool attitude, and I don't let it show. Well then too, the client is getting two messages. On the one hand, there's this coolness. On the other hand, perhaps he does sense a warmth in me. I would like it to be just one message.
Rogers considera que o terapeuta precisa desenvolver a capacidade de prezar e aceitar incondicionalmente o cliente, sem julgamentos, permitindo que ele se mostre como é, que apresente sua própria visão de mundo, livre de restrições e avaliações externas. Dê uma olhada.
Now, a second thing that I find of a great deal of help in working with my clients is if I prize the individual, if I feel a real liking and acceptance and warmth toward this person. Here's a wife, let's say, who's full of bitterness toward her husband, making all kinds of complaints, some of them pretty extreme complaints. Can I really be acceptant of this individual? Can I really accept her as she is, with all her bitterness and hate? Or here's a man who's obviously bright, and yet who sits there telling me that how completely inadequate he is, that he really can't do a thing, that he is utterly impotent to meet life on any reasonable terms. Can I accept a person like that? Can I accept him as he is? Or here's a man who's stepping out with a woman not his wife, going against the morals of the community. Can I accept that person as he is? It's that kind of question which continually comes to mind. Do I accept a person in the way in which he really presents himself, or do I form a judgment about him? I think that acceptance means a willingness for a person to be separate. Now, it's very, very hard for most of us to let another individual be separate. We want him to be someone like me. We want to, we continually try to see him through our eyes instead of letting him be a separate individual with his own feelings, his own attitudes, and his own behavior. And if there's one thing that I've learned in my experience, it is that I want to value him as he is, with the potentialities he has, to be sure, but I want to value and prize and accept him as he is. A separate person with the right to his own feelings and his own behavior and his own way of seeing things.
A escuta empática é a terceira condição necessária para que o terapeuta promova o clima psicológico exigido. Empatia significa viver temporariamente a vida do outro, movimentando-se em seu mundo sem fazer julgamentos. Dessa forma, o terapeuta se permite ver as coisas do ponto de vista do cliente, para que ele se sinta seguro e não ameaçado. Observe o que diz Rogers.
Can I understand this person sensitively, accurately? Can I understand him with empathy, which means getting inside his world and seeing his world from his own point of view? Can I really sense the flavor of his feelings and the attitudes that he's talking about? Here's a bright, attractive, married woman who tells me that she finds life so hopeless that she often considers suicide. Can I really understand how, with all her good qualities, nevertheless life can seem that way to her? That's what I mean by really understanding from within. Can I see how remote and alone and hopeless she feels, in spite of what all the rest of us might think of as very positive elements in her life? It's simply incredibly difficult for most of us to simply understand without judging, to see the other person's point of view without making judgments about it. We have absolutely no experience of that kind in our social conversation or in our ordinary life. When you listen to this talk or when you listen to your friends speak, you immediately begin to form judgments about it. You don't listen to try to get the other person's point of view. You try to make judgments of it from your point of view. That's why I find that in training counselors it's terribly difficult to get them simply to be willing to understand from within and to stop at that point. I think people who do listen and understand and who don't judge are deeply valued in any community where they live. They get to be known as people who help. People ask, why does this help? Why does if you just understand a person, doesn't that confirm him in what he's doing? Doesn't it make him settled in his problems? No, that's not so. If I understand a mother who's rejecting her child, or an errant husband, or someone of that sort, and can understand him accurately and accept him completely, then that creates in him the most positive basis for change that I know. That's the kind of climate which permits a person to change and makes it likely that he will change. Whereas without any understanding and without any acceptance, individuals are often frozen into the very behavior patterns which they wish they could leave behind. So I would like to be a very sensitive instrument in understanding and sensing just the flavor and meaning of what this person is trying to tell me, and letting him know that I do understand that and that I sense how it feels to him.
Se o terapeuta age com congruência, aceitação incondicional e empatia, o processo terapêutico se desenvolve e o cliente atravessa aproximadamente 7 estágios que indicam que o desenvolvimento de sua personalidade está acontecendo. No texto complementar desse vídeo, descrevemos esses 7 estágios em maiores detalhes. Mas, em poucas palavras, podemos dizer que o cliente vai adquirindo maior confiança em si mesmo, aprendendo a reconhecer seus sentimentos e emoções. Percebe-se capaz de avaliar-se independentemente das expectativas e desejos das outras pessoas, reconectando-se com o eu real e redescobrindo suas demandas internas e seu desejo de buscar o próprio crescimento. Dê uma olhada.
Both from my clinical experience and from our research investigations, we find that if attitudes of the sort that I've described are present, then quite a number of things will happen. She'll explore some of her feelings and attitudes more deeply. She's likely to discover some hidden aspects of herself that she wasn't aware of previously. Feeling herself prized by me, it's quite possible she'll come to prize herself more. Feeling that some of her meanings are understood by me, then she can more readily perhaps listen to herself, listen to what's going on within her own experience, listen to some of the meanings she hasn't been able to catch before. And perhaps if she senses a realness in me, she'll be able to be a little more real within herself. I suspect there will be a change in the manner of her expression. At least this has been my experience in other instances. From being rather remote from her experiencing, remote from what's going on within her, it's possible that she'll move toward more immediacy of experiencing, that she will be able to sense and express what's going on in her in the immediate moment. From being disapproving of herself, it's quite possible she will move toward a greater degree of acceptance of herself. From somewhat of a fear of relating, she may move toward being able to relate more directly and to encounter me more directly. From construing life in somewhat rigid black and white patterns, she may move toward more tentative ways of construing her experience and of seeing the meanings in it. From a locus of evaluation which is outside of herself, it's quite possible she will move toward recognizing a greater capacity within herself for making judgments and drawing conclusions. So those are some of the changes that we have tended to find, and I think that they are all of them changes that are characteristic of the process of therapy or of therapeutic movement.
Como resultado do processo terapêutico, o indivíduo sente-se mais congruente, ou seja, mais autêntico, mais ele mesmo. Tem pouca ou nenhuma necessidade de distorcer ou negar experiências, estando mais aberto a elas. Em decorrência, o cliente também tem uma imagem mais clara de si mesmo e uma visão de mundo mais realista. Torna-se mais capaz de resolver os próprios problemas e apresenta um elevado nível de autoconsideração positiva, ou seja, de amor e aceitação por si mesmo. Quer saber mais sobre a terapia centrada no cliente? Acesse o texto complementar logo abaixo e conheça os 7 estágios do processo terapêutico proposto por Rogers.